Up next, the frontman from a beloved 80s rock band from Canada gives us the story of a classic rock standard that we hear all the time on rock radio. This song put them on the map, and it will take you right back to the early 80s on Professor of Rock, brought to you by Zenny. Hey music junkies, Professor of Rock always here to celebrate the greatest artists and the greatest songs of all time. We invite you to join our community of music celebration below. We'd love to have you. Just subscribe so you never miss out on our daily content. You can also become a patron to help us curate this history, and we have some great offerings for our patrons coming out in the next few weeks. Now I'm excited to bring you another episode from our series, Revelations, where featured artists reveal rare stories about their biggest songs, along with fascinating insight about their careers. Now, in this installment of Revelations, I'm excited to bring you episode 2 of our recent Zoom session with Mike Reno, the lead singer, co-founder, and co-songwriter behind the 80s classic rock band Loverboy. Now, here Mike details the creation and the inspiration behind the Loverboy classic, Turn Me Loose. This was the song that really started their incredible run in the 80s with 9 top 40 hits. And that's where our story begins on Revelations. At the beginning, you were rejected by many American labels, and with the demo, what were the songs on that demo that you had sent out that were rejected? Were any from your first album?
Absolutely. Probably 6 of the songs from the first album. I'm going to say, The Kid Is Hot Tonight for sure. Always on My Mind. Prissy Prissy, which was great because we had this kind of a funky thing going with that song. And then we had kind of a new age or a punky thing, punk rock thing going with The Kid Is Hot Tonight. And then we put Turn Me Loose in there, and it was kind of like, whoa. A lot of people wrote back and said, we've never really heard songs like this, but we're not interested. And I go, What is the deal? And it took them management a long time. They kept inviting people back to town and saying, here they are, they're playing in the club. And I said to the guys, the management, I said, they come to see us in these little small clubs. I said, is that really the best way to show us off? And they went, well, that's what you're doing. So we ended up getting a gig at a bigger place. It was an awesome place called The Body Shop. And it was right downtown Vancouver. And it was the number one spot for everybody to go. And we developed a bit of a following so that before we came on stage, there was a kind of lineup down the street to get in the club, because we were kind of catching on just from playing around town, which was cool because we only played our own music. And most of the people back then would play a bunch of other music and throw one of their own songs in every once in a while. We never did that. We just played all original music the whole time. Some of the stuff we never ever even released and maybe could do, but back then we wanted to show it off. And we got Jeff Burns from Columbia Records. He came to see us. He was working out of Toronto, and he came to see us, and he thought we had something going on, and he offered us a contract. And it was like, oh my God, all we wanted was enough to go in the studio and cut a record. So our management team kind of worked it out so we could get a producer that would work for, that much money. And, we got a studio that would lock us out and let us record. I think we did the whole project in like 5 weeks, start to finish. And it was the first project Bob Rock was our engineer. Mike Fraser was the second engineer, and Bruce Fairburn was the producer. And these were up and coming guys from Vancouver. And now they're like hugely famous guys, but you know what I mean? So it was a kind of a head start. It was a start for all of us. It wasn't just a start for Loverboy. It was a start for Bob Rock, Bruce Fairburn, Mike Fraser. Little Mountain Studios became famous from it. I mean, the whole thing. And then shortly thereafter, all these musicians were coming to town and recording there. Motley Crue, Bon Jovi, Metallica, whoever. I don't know if Metallica, you know what I mean? And Aerosmith, the Cult.
Well, that debut album, a lot of people don't realize, it sold 1 million copies just in Canada.
Yeah, it was pretty huge.
Gosh, and 2 times platinum in America. And At that time, you guys were touring a lot. There were like 200 shows. You said Cheap Trick, ZZ Top, Def Leppard, Kansas, so many bands that you were touring with. Let's jump in and talk about one of my favorite songs you guys ever did, Turn Me Loose. And I knew that was on the demo that you'd sent that was rejected. And in my mind, I'm just thinking, how could somebody hear that and not say that's a smash? Because it just didn't sound like any rock song at that time. Number 35 in the US in early 82, also number 6 on the rock charts, but it was big worldwide. I mean, it was number 5 in New Zealand, number 4 in South Africa, number 3 in Australia. So it was all over the place. Of course, written by you and Paul. Tell me about the process of writing that, because there's that strong synth, unmistakable synth when you first hear it.
Well, we had a keyboard player we were working with, which is still the keyboard player now, Doug Johnson. And basically the song started with hi-hat and bass drum. I played it on bass to the point where it drove Paul Dean crazy. He said, if you play that song one more time, that riff, he says, I'm going to smash that bass over your head kind of thing. And I said, well, why don't you write some guitar around it, right? It was kind of like a challenge. It was almost like he was mad at me for I kept playing the riff, and I knew the drum part because I'm a drummer, and then I was playing it on bass. And finally he started, chiming in. And when it came time to demo it, we put a keyboard right in the front. It was kind of reminiscent of a song Paul did with Streetheart, but completely different, just the same kind of thing where it was a keyboard intro. Mm-hmm. And keyboards were really quite popular right then. The Cars were big on the keyboards, and groups like that were coming out with really big keyboard. So we wanted to mix, and what we wanted to do was have the guitar and the keyboard kind of counter each other. So that's kind of why if you listen to the song, you'll hear the guitar will be playing one thing and the piano would be giving that kind of thing. And it's just a kind of a building piece. It was a song that maybe on the demo wasn't exactly the same as when we put it on the record, because I had put that song, the band had put the song away, we'd finished recording it, and I was driving around one night and I popped by the studio. Paul was playing some guitar parts, and I asked Bob and Bruce if they'd put Turn Me Loose back up. I wanted to re-sing it, and they just went, get out of here, what are you, crazy? He said, it's fine, it's great, we got it. Plus we got Paul up here. And then if we'd have to do the whole align the tape, which is something people don't know about, where you have to put the tape on and align all 24 tracks, and then you got to remix the whole thing and bring the whole thing back up, turn all the knobs and get it all back. And they just didn't feel like doing it. And I just kept bugging them for about an hour, and finally they said, okay, we'll do it. And when we did it, I changed some of the lyrics around, and then I also threw in that scream. Just out of nowhere. I don't know what the deal was. And by the time I'd finished doing it, I was all sweaty, from singing. And I walked outside for some fresh air, and I looked up and there was a full moon. And I went, holy shit. And tonight's going to be a full moon too.
Wow.
So I better get on the old, I better record a vocal tonight.
No kidding.
On my trusty microphone.
That scream is just otherworldly, man. Yeah.
Well, it was just something, something that happened. Just something that happened. That's kind of cool. I know a lot of people talk about how they did songs and stuff they came up with. But this is what happened to me. It was just a perfectly natural experience.
This song too this was back when a song was given space to build and to breathe. And you just don't see that anymore. The vocals have to come right in. It's got to be so many seconds to the chorus. I mean, your vocal doesn't come in for 40, 42 seconds, something like that.
DJs loved it.
Yeah.
Because they could talk over it.
Yeah.
That's one of the reasons it did so well. DJs loved it. Do you know that song would have probably done much better in the United States had there not been a, what the hell should we say? Columbia Records, a lot of the record companies were trying to get rid of the independent record promoters, which were considered, a little on the, they pulled some pretty tricky stuff to get things
Sure.
played. And that's just the way it is. It's just the way it was. It probably may be the same still. So when the record promoters, independent record promoters were let go by Columbia Records, one of them came in the office in New York. I think he was in front of Al Taller, the president of Columbia Records at the time. And he says, you guys think you could do this without independent record promoters? They said, well, we're going to try because we're tired of working with you guys, blah, 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 whatever they said. And the guy takes out of his coat, he takes a dart, and there's a billboard on the wall of the president's office because they followed the number ones. And we were charted at 39, I believe. But, he didn't know. He just stood back and he said, I'm going to throw this dart wherever it lands. I'm going to kill that song. I'm going to show you how powerful we really are. And this actually happened. And
Wow.
the bloody dart landed on Turn Me Loose. God.
Jeez. Wow.
I know. And it's one of the fans' favorite songs. I mean, it probably boosted everybody to buy the record. Everybody talks about it. Everybody sings every word. But it never climbed the charts. So people wonder why it didn't climb the charts like a lot of other songs. And that's the reason. A lot of people don't know that. That's the reason.
Well, that chorus is so great. It was like the perfect introduction for Loverboy to fans or for people who weren't aware of your music, because that duo of you and Paul Dean. And Paul, you and Paul just don't get enough credit as far as I'm concerned. You're very underappreciated. I mean, phenomenal vocalist, and Paul Dean is a guitarist. I mean, come on. It doesn't get better than Paul Dean.
No, I agree with you. He's fabulous. And we do a little Everly Brothers thing where he sings like a third under me on certain parts. So we have this thing, like When It's Over, he's singing just under me. And Turn Me Loose too, he's got this just under me thing. And it was always very comforting having him kind of ghost me just under me. It just made it fatter. And he was never as high as the mix as me. So it was like really kind of, he was ghosting me. It was a nice blend, and I really appreciate it. It was probably Bob Rock that figured that one out.
The background vocals, female background vocals, brought some soul to that rock and roll, man.
I'm here to please, I'm even on my knees.
I agree. I think that was Bruce Fairbairn's doing. He had a gal, it was a Vancouver gal that was doing all the work, Nancy Nash, and she was just fabulous. And she came in and she just added these parts, and Bruce told her what to sing, and I'm sitting there going, wow, this is sounding great. And it did. The track just built into this enormous track. And, by the time they're finished, I'm standing up. I can't even sit down anymore. You know what I mean? That's just the way it was.
Well, that chorus, and then at the end, that end chorus where you and Paul Dean, it's almost like you're having this battle of guitar and vocal. And man, that's amazing. It's just a showstopper at the end, especially there.
I appreciate you liking that. That's kind of cool. Not a lot of people talk about that, but at the end we are kind of having a little war. I'm singing, he's playing, I'm playing, he's singing over top, I'm singing over top of him, he's playing riffs over and around me. Yeah, pretty cool. That was pretty cool.
It was
a long time ago, so I'm glad you brought it up, because now I'm remembering it all now.
Well, the music video too, this was early on before MTV, but it had the old movie footage in there. And I got to say that you were the first to rock the headband, and everybody followed, man.
Thank you. Do you know how I got into the headband? Remember I told you at the beginning of our talk that we used to play these smoky little nightclubs and stuff and cram 300, 400 people in. So it'd be pretty hot. And this is back before they came up with the LED lights that they use a lot of times now. These were these 1,000-watt par lamps. Remember these?
Oh, yeah.
And they'd basically bake the hair right off the top of your head if they were too close. And a lot of the times they were only about 8 feet away, because, these clubs got low ceilings and you're playing away. After about the third song, there's so much sweat dripping in my eyes that I can't even see. So on the first break, I whipped into in this little corner dressing room area they put together for us, and I cut the sleeves off my T-shirt, and I took I think there was a black T-shirt, and I took them and I put them over my head and doubled them up and just made it look okay. And then I walked back out for the next set, and then there was no more dripping in the eyes. And I went, this is what I'm doing. This is what I'm going to start doing. And everybody kind of went, hey, it's cool with the headband. I didn't even, it wasn't a fashion thing for me. It was just a survival thing. I had to keep the sweat out of my eyes.
Yeah.
It's crazy how it started.
No kidding. Well, Turn Me Loose it's way much bigger than a chart position, because it's the thing about a lot of your songs is they find themselves in pop culture, all over pop culture. And this one, I love how they used Wet Hot American Summer. That's a great scene. Have you ever seen that?
I don't think I have.
I mean, they use like most of the song in Wet Hot American Summer. It was a comedy in America that came out, didn't do very well, but it's become like a cult classic. And it has like Paul Rudd and Amy Poehler and just a lot of actors that are huge now. But at the time, they were all just kind of buddies, and they put together this film. And it's so funny how they use it. It's set in 1980, I think 81. And so they're using the rock music of that time. It's really cool how they use it.
Awesome. I'm going to have to check that out.
Yeah. And then used in Crank as well. I don't know if you saw that.
Well. I love that, because he was just kicking the snot out of this guy. And Turn Me Loose is just looping, just playing all the parts over and over again. It's like this, and he's ripping arms off and banging, That's great. I've always loved him as an actor. He's one of our favorite. We love watching him in anything, really, to be honest. Yeah.
I was at a sushi place in Malibu with my wife, showing her this amazing place they have called Nobu.
Oh, yeah. That's home with a $35 two-piece.
Yes.
Yeah, up in Vancouver, where you get 12 pieces for $8. But anyway. Yeah. We'll talk about Nobu another time.
Nobu is like, it's the kind of sushi where it ruins sushi for you, really, because it's so good that after you have sushi after that, it's like, But we're there, and Jason is walking by, and I'm like, oh my gosh. And he looks at me, and he gives me a look. I wasn't going to say anything, but he gives me a look like, don't you dare talk to me. I wouldn't have had it any other way. It was awesome. I felt like I was going to get my ass kicked by him. It was awesome. So anyway, I just thought I'd share that. But yeah, so also used in a Mr. Lube commercial as well. That's what's great, is when they use it in these things, it does introduce it to a new generation, and the people that remember it go, oh man, I remember that song, and it leads them back to, because of music being so available, people can just go and pull it up and start listening to it and remember that. But a lot of covers too. What did you think about the version that Eminem and Limp Bizkit did? Did you ever hear that?
I did hear it. I heard it after the fact, and I thought it was pretty cool what they did. I've heard some jazz folks kind of do it, like almost like turn me loose, but I never heard the way these guys did it, and because they had a whole thing going on there, and I thought that was cool. Loved it, and there's some girls who did it in Australia.
Young Divas.
Yeah, they did a bang-up job on it.
And they hit number 15 on the chart there with it. And then Fahrenheit did it as well. That's an Australian band.
Right.
The Aussies love it.
It became a gold single, which you don't get often. Gold singles. They're hard to get. I've got one on the wall somewhere in the basement or something. Somewhere. Or behind the couch or something.
What's the legacy of that song for you so many years later? How does that feel to you now, so many years later, playing it every night? And
I love it. It's just, you know what it is? It's just when people hear, you're right about the intro. When they hear that intro with the hi-hat and the keyboards, they know exactly what's coming.
Oh, yeah.
And you could just see them just put the crowd, because this is really what we do. For years we've been touring, and touring is what we do best, to be honest with you. I find recording just a bit of a chore. Playing live is just a dream because the crowd loves it. We love it. We're all getting in it, getting into it. And that is one of the pivotal songs of the evening for sure.
Hey, thanks for watching. Leave us a comment about Mike Reno and Loverboy and this classic song. Tell us your memories about this song. You can also get the song and other Loverboy classics and the band's merch by clicking on our Amazon links below. If you like our content, we invite you to subscribe below and also support us on Patreon to help us keep curating this history. And you'll also see some great offerings coming on Patreon in the next few weeks. Help us keep the music alive. Until next time, 3 chords and the truth, my friends.